right, I would like to call to order
Talk to you about something.
the meeting for the Board of Trustees of the Batavia Public Library District. This is our regular meeting, this 19th of June, 2018. We always start our meetings with the Pledge of Allegiance. If everyone please stand up for a moment. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Joanne, if you would start by calling the roll.
Blodgett. Kulata.
Here.
Deachman. Here. Garrett.
Here.
Henders. McKenzie. Smith here.
All right, we have quorum, so we can continue. The next agenda item is comments from the audience. One of the things we're going to be doing this evening is presenting a summary from our engagement activity that we did, or the outreach that we did. So if you have comments on that, maybe a better time would be, are we going to have an opportunity to discuss that, or is it just a presentation? So we'll see how that goes. But if anybody has any comments in general they would like to make at this time.
Thank you for making it available to the public.
You're welcome. I'm glad that you all are here. I'm glad that we have an audience to share this with. All right, item number 5 is approve the consent agenda. On that, we have the minutes from our regular meeting of Tuesday, 15th of May, 2018, our expenditures for May of 2018, an ordinance specifying the library board's regular meeting schedule for 2018 to 2019, an ordinance ascertaining prevailing wage, an ordinance transferring funds from the library fund to the special reserve fund, and the site railings. Can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda? I'm sorry, this is our roll call. I need a motion first, Jeff.
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Thank you.
Second.
Thanks, Kate. Roll call, please.
Kulata.
Aye.
Deachman.
Aye.
Garrett.
Aye.
Smith. Aye.
Okay. Now I need a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
Move to approve tonight's agenda.
Thank
I'll
you.
second.
Thank you, Joanne. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Item number 7 is the community engagement. This is the summary of the key ideas and recommendations to the Board of Trustees from, which is a report from Speak Up facilitating team, and it's going to be presented by Daniel Russo and Catherine Hubbard, the community co-chairs.
Good evening. My name is Catherine Hubbard, and along with my very gifted and popular co-chair, Daniel Russo, we're pleased to represent the Speak Up facilitating team to share the results of the community engagement process. Tonight, we are going to take a look at what led to Speak Up, review what was involved in the process, and finally share recommendations compiled from the community engagement sessions. At the end of our presentation, we will distribute a handout of the committee's recommendations. In 2014, a telephone survey was conducted to gather feedback and perceptions about the Batavia Public Library. It covered a variety of topics in the categories of library use, library services and programs, technology and website use, children's programs and services, sources of library information, as well as future growth. This survey began the process of collecting community input to assist in decision-making for future planning. The next logical step was to have an interactive conversation with the Batavia library community to continue to discuss topics relevant to the library and future planning so that we could best serve the Batavia community. This is where Speak Up came in. The Board of Trustees charged the Speak Up facilitating team to engage shareholders in meaningful dialogue and discussion and solicit stakeholders' hopes, ideas, and suggestions in order to support the process of long-range planning and to help determine the future direction of the library.
Community participation in the Speak Up process occurred in 2 areas. The facilitating team is a group of dedicated community volunteers who, together with the public library representatives, accepted the responsibility for facilitating the engagement process from its initial sessions through this final report to the board and the community. Members of the community were invited to participate in any or all of the 4 community engagement sessions. Advertising was done through newspaper articles, social media, a presentation to the Batavia City Council, Neighbors Magazine, and the library newsletter. Here is a list of our facilitating team members. Our facilitating team volunteered their time and provided valuable insights that helped in shaping the presentations that were shared to provide information to you, the community. At this time, I would ask the facilitating team members to stand and receive our appreciation. So would you stand if you were on that committee? The community engagement sessions are where the work really happened. At these, the real discussions about the future of the library took place. Sessions were held in February, March, April, and May. In the first session, Library Director George Sheets provided an overview of current library programs and services. In the second session, Batavia resident and library consultant Lynn Elam explained how and why libraries will change in the future. In the third session, 2 speakers were featured. Christopher Kotra of Building Technology Consultants explained the library's long-range capital assets plan. And then Batavia Library's Joseph McCain presented an overview of library finances. In the fourth session, community members looked at the information that was compiled and answered the question, did we hear you correctly?
As previously mentioned, Speak Up participants were asked to provide feedback and input related to each session's topics. Now, we're pleased to share a brief summary of each session's key ideas and the recommendations created and reviewed by the community stakeholders during the engagement process. Participants reported that they enjoyed their library experiences at Batavia Public Library. They advised that the library's employees are knowledgeable and friendly, the programs are interesting and informative, and the collection is diverse and current. Most participants were surprised to discover a program, service, or collection that they were not aware of before the presentation. Participants greatly value the benefits provided by community collaborations. They acknowledge that there are long-term financial challenges with respect to facility maintenance and day-to-day operations.
4 recommendations were developed from this session. First, expand the library's use of social media and other technologies to promote programs, services, and collection to the public it serves, infants to seniors. Second, highlight for the public the library's analytical data, such as usage statistics and national rankings. Third, ensure exceptional services to library users by providing and supporting quality staffing. And fourth, explore ways to maintain and expand collaborative programs with community organizations.
Participants identified trends in society that are influencing what users expect from the library. They want to maintain the print collection while expanding digital offerings. Participants acknowledge that technology in all areas is critically important and changing rapidly, and they suggested the need to understand demographic factors in relation to library services. Participants anticipate increased demand for meeting space and expanded hours.
6 recommendations were developed from this session. First, maintain a robust collection of materials in multiple formats. Second, identify underserved populations and explore new opportunities for programs. Third, respond to changing services and technology needs. Fourth, explore opportunities to repurpose existing spaces to meet changing needs. Fifth, maintain and/or expand hours of operations. And six, optimize the use of technology.
The new Batavia Public Library building is now more than 16 years old, and it is starting to face major maintenance needs. The maintenance presentation explained the independently prepared capital assets plan, which identifies site and building needs for the next 20 years. The study also noted that delayed maintenance is detrimental to the building and expensive because maintenance and repair costs will only escalate. The budget presentation showed that 95% of the library's income comes from property tax. The presentation also demonstrated that if the library maintains its current level of programs and services, then its income is not adequate for addressing maintenance and repair needs. Participants evaluated and ranked many possible solutions. The highest ranking solution was to transfer the soon-to-be-retired 7-cent tax rate for construction bonds to the library's tax rate for operations with zero tax rate increase.
3 recommendations were developed from this session. First, conduct an awareness program regarding needs outpacing income. Second, maintain the community's investment in the library building and site by systematically planning to address long-term maintenance needs. And third, ask voters to approve transferring the 7 cents tax rate for construction bonds to the library's tax rate for operations.
We've shared a great deal of information with you this evening, and we encourage everyone to take a closer look at the Speak Up process by going to the library's website. There you'll find videos and executive summaries of each presentation.
The facilitating team recognizes that to continue to make well-informed decisions, the Board of Trustees values the community's input. There were lively and informative conversations at the Speak Up sessions that served to create these recommendations. Our team was pleased to see that the recommendations developed from the Speak Up sessions affirmed the results of the telephone survey that was conducted in 2014. 16 years ago, over 6,000 community members enthusiastically turned out to celebrate the library's new home. Speak Up participants continue to feel that enthusiasm, especially as the library expands services, incorporates new technology, and develops into a focal point for our community. Speak Up participants are now eager to explore the future of Batavia Public Library. Thank you for this opportunity to talk to you today.
Thank you, Daniel. Thank you, Catherine. Do we have any, I guess, comments from the board on this? Other than, I know you all put a lot of effort and time into this, and it's greatly appreciated.
Can we take comments from the public?
Yes,
first?
I wanted to see if you guys had anything. For any of you that came to see this presentation, do you have any comments about what you saw? Great. And how many, did all of you in the room here, did you all participate in at least one of these sessions? Yeah. I figured as much, so. Excellent. Well, yeah, we really appreciate the time and effort. Obviously, we care about the library enough to be on the board and spend a little bit of time helping to give direction, but it's important for us to get feedback from the community to make sure that we aren't just sole focused on something that isn't important to the community, and that we maintain this space as a community space, and that we listen to what you all want and make sure that we are providing what's best for our community.
It was a wonderful process. I think those of us who participated in it learned a lot about the library, including challenges that the library faces. And, the turnout was really enthusiastic and, appreciative just to have that opportunity to provide the input.
Thank you very much. And what is what's our next step?
Well, the next step usually with this kind of project and report, although we haven't ever had anything quite so comprehensive as this community oriented report. But the next step is usually to refer to committee to begin to review and start to address the recommendations. And given the scope of some of the recommendations, it might be worthwhile to consider a committee as a whole, or the whole board that's, take together to
Sure. Okay.
Is the first step then to prioritize the recommendations into
Well, the board,
time-sensitive or necessary
the
way?
board will decide that.
Okay.
It's entirely up to how the board wants to, the trustees want to break it down and pursue it.
Okay.
And then is there plans for another presentation in like a year from now, 6 months from now? Or is that, again, something that we need to think through now that we have these recommendations?
That'll be,
And put it out so that the community knows the progress we're making on that, or the plan of action once
again, that
it's
would be
taken?
how the trustees want us to address that.
Okay. So it sounds like we need to have a further
Yes.
discussion about that. Yeah, sure. It's, right. Now,
Since there are no committee meetings in July, we could substitute a committee of the whole meeting for lack of a regular committee meeting.
do we have a board meeting in July?
We do on the third Tuesday, but if the first week in July works, other than Independence Day, of course,
Right.
you can get July 3rd or 5th, or we can explore other dates if people wish.
Okay. We probably want to have enough time. I was thinking we could do it the same night as this meeting, but I think we want to have enough time to do the discussion. I don't want to cancel that in, so.
I think we need a whole meeting
Yeah.
for to discuss them.
I would agree.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's fine with that works for me.
First of July works for me too.
Okay.
It works better the 3rd than the 5th.
Well, right now,
The 5th is a Thursday?
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah, Independence Day is a Wednesday.
Yeah.
It's often when we don't have committee meetings because we never come in.
Yes.
I think the 3rd works best for me.
Okay. Why don't we tentatively try and do that?
That works.
I think it's checking.
Yep.
Okay.
What?
What's that?
She can't hear. We need to speak up.
Mumble. We're tentatively looking at July 3rd for a committee of the whole meeting, so we would discuss this report amongst ourselves and whoever else wanted to attend. I mean, those were always open, public meetings, so.
They're open.
And then from there, we'll kind of develop some tasks to move forward and implement the recommendations. Okay. All right, I think, is there anything else on this item then? Okay, I didn't want to presuppose that none of you want to stay for the rest of the meeting, but you are welcome to leave at any time.
Or stay.
Or stay.
Or say.
Yes. The next part of our meeting is our financials, and then we'll go through our committees and things like that. So you won't hurt any of our feelings if you decide to leave.
He's out.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your involvement.
Thank you for coming.
You can take a cookie on your way out.
Right.
Please do.
Thank you, Dr.
Thank you. How long do your meetings usually run?
Oh, that's a loaded question.
We don't have that much more to, well, no, we do. We have the budget
We
to
have a lot,
talk about, so we'll be here for an hour.
Yeah, about
About an hour.
2 minutes.
For that.
But the
president's report, the committee reports are always, the director and librarian's reports are always very interesting.
And fairly quick, so.
Yes.
And you can leave at any time, so. Or stay. Financial reports, Joe, why don't we move on to those?
Only a comment if there aren't any questions. And the projections for the month of May and through actually the middle of June are basically unchanged from what the report shows. We're still tracking fairly well. We'll be doing the additional 80,000 transfer, the actions in this report too. So, any questions?
And that's part because we're at the end of the fiscal year, right? So we.
Correct. 11 days to go.
How many?
11. Yeah.
Not that you're counting?
No.
So, okay.
Is there anything within those 11 days that we need to spend in order to finish that year off appropriate? Or is there anything that kind of
No.
needs to get that timing down?
Not really.
Okay.
We're getting near the end of the year, and it's everybody had a May budget report, and then I ran Friday for particularly the directors another report, and so if they see a couple of areas where they can get stuff, but it's just the timing. Although anymore, with the internet and whatnot, sometimes it's in 1 2 days. Or Amazon locker, so.
Right.
All right, thanks, Joe. President's report. There's a couple things on here. George attended for us the annual meeting on the Batavia tax increment finances. That was this morning at 9 o'clock. This is a meeting that the city has to talk about the TIP district. So I'll let you explain what you've learned. Anything?
Well, due to my earlier meeting running a little bit late, by the time things were there for me, they were done because it only took them 20 minutes this morning. But I sent you
Copy the slides, sure.
the PowerPoint, and anybody who wants to see the PowerPoint presentation, I'd be happy to share it.
Okay.
It's basically a requirement of Illinois law to have this joint review board, which is represented, the representatives on it are all the taxing districts that are affected by the tax increment financing districts. So it's the township and Waubonsee and the library and the city and the park district and the school district and I think there may be a mosquito abatement district, and there's a lot of different districts. And they basically present information on the reports they file with the state each year. And from my understanding and talking to Chris Aston, who puts all this together for the city, there really was nothing unexpected or unusual. It's just satisfying the legal requirement to have this kind of review.
Okay. We need 2 trustees other than the secretary to perform the audit of the secretary's records. That needs to be done on or before September 1st. What's the time commitment for this typically?
About 20 minutes maybe.
Oh, okay.
The 30 minutes tops. Yeah.
It's very fun.
Yes, is that something you'd like to do again? Or?
I'm just saying, I've already done it.
Okay.
So, if there's
We could
others.
appoint members that aren't here, maybe.
Well, Rich did do it last year with
You
me,
and Rich
so
did last year, okay.
I don't know, Diane and Mike, I don't know.
We have a little bit of time to do this if,
It's,
Wait until next meeting.
yeah, can we wait till next meeting to?
or if you need to get it down, I will volunteer. It's very easy.
Yeah, this gets attached to the Illinois Public Library annual report, which we actually have to, the board will approve at the August meeting. So while the law says August 1st, September 1st, we have to have it done prior to the August board meeting. So
Okay.
Jenny and I will do it.
We'll do it if you
Okay.
want. I don't know if you want to come like 20 minutes before the committee meeting on the 3rd
Yeah.
and just knock it out? Is that too early?
yeah, I can have everything ready for you by then.
Yeah, maybe that is too early. Or maybe we could say after.
I can
It's
be
a matter
after
of just
here.
completing the inventory of records because we.
Will you let us know if
I will
that's going to
not-
work? If
I will
not,
not-
we'll find another date.
Okay. Yes,
Thank you.
the library
And you have
districts are the
auditors or
only
title?
government in the entire
Yes,
state of
you would.
Illinois that are required to do this.
Great.
For reasons that no one seems to know, but that's, but
Okay.
it is actually a good process for us.
Okay. All right. maybe this is a good point to mention the Relay for Life, unless you've got something on that. We participated as a library for the Relay for Life. They were at I know somebody's on the committee for that. They asked somebody to come read some books. So we did. We had a very small audience, but we read some books and had a nice time, and it was nice. I think hopefully we'll do it again next year if they'd like our help. We did try to set up our banner to advertise ourselves, but it was kind of windy and it kept blowing over. So. But Joanne and I read some books and had some helpers in the audience, and it was fun. So. All right, good news or comments from the board? Okay, correspondence and communications. We have this.
Oh, yes.
Is that the only thing? Another annexation. So as you all probably know, whenever the city annexes the property within the library district, they let us know. So it's all pretty standard stuff. I don't think we have any other communications in here. Okay. Directors and librarians reports.
Okay. And this is a little bit lighter than usual, in part because issues related to how to count things in SWAN and some glitches that SWAN has been having with its some analytical software means that we don't have the circulation or cyclical borrowing or acquisitions reports in the packet this month. So the various department heads responsible for those are working on that with SWAN, but it's affecting all 97 libraries, so it's not just us.
Not just the new ones, okay.
The other thing is that, as you may know, that the Friends of the Batavia Public Library and the Batavia Public Library Foundation co-sponsored a bulldog for the Bulldogs Unleashed, and anyone who's walked around downtown has seen some of the bulldogs. And so in the report here is a picture of the dog sponsored by the Friends of the Foundation, called On the Wings of Books, and it has wings made out of a book, and it has an owl sitting on its head actually. And this will live in the library after the auction in the fall. And the inscription on the book is the same inscription that is on the wall on the corner of Wilson and Water Street. So there are 30 bulldogs on the street, new bulldogs, and plenty of other ones around town as well. So I encourage you all to take a look at those. Other than that, it's just pretty much the same kind of updates on personnel.
Hello. I'm going to start these with you.
Sure.
I'm just going to give you a few highlights of Summer Reading Club since we're in full swing. We're in week 3 of official start of Summer Reading Club. We have over 90 programs planned this summer, so we're sending out some pictures of those, and we're having a lot of fun. You see some of the events that we've been doing. We off Batavia Main Street offered to lend us their giant chess set, so we had that out the other day, and we're enjoying that. So lots of great programs happening. We have 59 junior volunteers assisting us this summer. They're reading with younger children, preparing coupon packets, and keeping our shelves nice and neat. So we have a great complement of junior volunteers. And we do have already over 500, about 575 children who have completed at least one level of Summer Reading Club, have come back at least once to collect rewards. We have 47 generous sponsors this summer as well. And they have donated everything from ice cream treats to kids' meals, from mini golf to museum entries, from sporting events tickets to paperback books, and all for reading rewards. So we're very fortunate to be able to offer those to all of our Summer Reading Club participants. There's still 7 weeks to participate, so if you haven't joined yet Summer Reading Club, I'm sure Stacy will mention that too to all the adults who haven't quite joined Summer Reading Club yet as well, so we're happy to have you. And we did begin our outreach to both Mooseheart and Batavia Apartments last week, and we're taking Summer Reading Club to those 2 organizations as well this summer. So That's what's happening in youth services.
I saw the giant chessboard on Facebook.
Oh, did you?
Yes.
And the children had a lot of fun. That was our International Games Day. And so some of the origin of chess is thought back to China. So that was one of we had some chessboards set up out in looked pretty rainy in the morning, so we set up indoors, and we had a lot of children really enjoying the giant chess set. So that was a lot of fun. Thank you.
Thanks, Joanne.
Hi. Hello. As Joanne mentioned, summer reading is for adults and teens also. We have many, many weeks of reading to go, and we invite all the adults and teens to come on in, pick up a reading logbook, or go on the library website. You can actually print off the logbook and begin filling it out at home, and then just bring it in, earn a prize, and go into our exciting drawing at the end of the summer. Already 87 adults and teens have turned in logbooks, so people are off to a great start, but we have many, many weeks to go, and 4 books, you win a prize. It's like reading is the reward, then you get a reward. Misty, our home delivery assistant, is taking summer reading on the road as well to the different locations that she visits. So she's providing the logbooks and taking prizes to those locations as well. One other thing I wanted to mention is that Misty, along with our promotional services manager, Pat, represented the library recently at the Homestead for the Senior Health and Fitness Day and at the Batavia Park District Senior Expo that took place over at the East Side Community Center. So they were there staffing a table with all kinds of information about library services, and we have some really nice pictures of those events on Facebook if you'd like to take a glance at them out there doing their thing and sharing the word about the library.
Stacy, any questions? Okay.
Can I go back to the director's report?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I kind of just jumped right over it. But the highlighted note about a sea change in how or even whether statistical information is compiled, can you elaborate on that a little bit? Because I feel like statistics.
We will have statistics. We understand that we may not, because of the different ways that the various member libraries identify materials. Some just call all their books book, whereas some will break it down by picture book and nonfiction and fiction. And so it becomes more difficult for us in the reciprocal borrowing interlibrary loan world to identify things that come to us that get checked out from another library. It becomes the challenge for our staff to figure out from the record and from the data we're getting what that is. And so we may end up with fewer categories in our report, or we may have to separate out some of the things that we're getting through interlibrary loan, whereas in the past we would have everything broken down into more finite categories. So certain information may not be easily accessible to us, but we will be able to report on what we check out and that sort of thing. Reciprocal borrowing statistics have changed quite a bit. It turns out quite a few libraries don't track that per se, like we have done in the past. There used to be a group of libraries that belonged to the DuPage library system that after DuPage became part of Rails, continued to share that data. And now that most of them are part of Swan, or some of them are standalone, like Aurora, some of that information is just not even available to us at all. So we're trying to figure out what to do about that. We know that Aurora is our biggest reciprocal borrower, and actually almost all the other reciprocal borrowers that were on our list, in fact, most of them are part of Swan now. So there's less walk-in traffic and more interlibrary loan traffic, which is built into our other statistics. So we're trying to sort all this out so we can provide intelligent reports, both for ourselves and for you.
There will be an ability to report out, though, on
Yes.
how many books were...
Oh, yes. Because that's very important to us. So
Yeah, okay.
Some of the SWAN staff members have questioned why some libraries have as much detail as some have, which I think is none of their business. You know, if we want to evaluate or analyze things, then that's our business. But and there are good analytical packages. Blue Cloud Analytics is part of Cersei Dynamics, and part of it is just that wasn't working completely right the way it was. It was collecting data, but it wasn't feeding out the data the way it should. So we're staff are working to basically figure this out.
I thought I had read somewhere too where that SWAN itself is focusing quite a lot on data analytics. And
They do quite a bit of that, and so it's a matter, I think, of with this. There's been a lot of work post migration. I think analytics hasn't been really at the top of the list right now. There's several post migration processes, including things like deduplication of records and things that have been occupying a rather massive amount of time. It's caused some subsequent to May 1st cataloging freezes and things like that as they run the servers to run the processes in the servers. So I think we're just in a quirky time with this migration, and I'm confident that we'll be able to get it all figured out.
maybe when things settle down there, are we allowed to make recommendations for additional reports?
Heck yeah.
I mean, so.
Yeah.
Sure.
There's no reason why.
Mhm.
And we have asked in the past for some changes to
Mhm.
the data, so the staff's been able to accommodate that in some regards, so. Yeah.
Thanks for that question.
Okay, all right, anything else on the directors and librarians reports? All right, moving on to committee and official representative reports for May and June, community engagement.
Well, I think we covered that.
Said we're gonna go to committee of the whole on that.
Right.
Standing committee on facilities.
Yes, we met, and basically, we put on the consent agenda the ability for George to move forward with BTC, to go ahead and see what we have to do to get the guardrails fixed, and that was kind of considered an emergency, so we moved ahead with that. We also discussed the handrails. Some of them have been damaged due to skateboarding, which I got an education on how skateboards can damage handrails. We also discussed what are called skateboard deterrents, which are putting items on the handrails to prohibit skateboarders from being able to do that. After a lot of discussion, we decided to do a little more research into that, and so we did not go forward with that.
Okay. All right. Any questions for Joanne on the committee meeting? Okay. Finance?
Yes, so we did meet as well. We had a couple items on the consent agenda as well. One of them relating to prevailing wages and an ordinance around that, and then the other ordinance to transfer funds from the library fund, the operating fund, to the special reserve that Joe talked about, and that's about the $80,000 as budgeted from the previous last year. And then the majority of the meeting was talking about the preliminary budget that we'll go through in the next agenda item, so I don't think we need to talk about that here.
Nope. Okay, thank you. Outreach did not meet. Services did not meet. Public Library Foundation, Diane usually presents on that. Yeah, anything you know?
I was at that meeting, and there was much discussion about the Save the Maps project, and whether the time was right later this year to do restoration work or conservation work on one of the maps as a way of getting that up and demonstrating to the public at large sort of what the outcome of that project could be. So quite a bit of discussion on that, and also further discussion on fundraising for that project. The foundation is intimately involved with the Bulldogs Unleashed project, so there was updates on that and some planning for the unleashing of the Bulldogs, which took place on June 10th. So it was a very upbeat meeting and had 100% attendance, which was always nice.
Nice, okay. Friends of the Batavia Public Library, Joanne?
I went to the meeting in May. The main event there was we gave a scholarship to Library Page.
Oh, nice.
So they are also in the process of ordering more T-shirts. So if any of you want, you've got books, T-shirts, you're able to do that. There will be no meeting in June or July. They took time off, and there was no book sale in June. So I have nothing to report on that.
Is there a July book sale?
There is a July.
Okay. George, Link.
Things are wrapping up so smoothly with Link that the Link Board canceled its next couple meetings, so that's always fun. Where the dissolution is progressing quite rapidly now that the migration is completed. The one quirky part of the dissolution affected the village libraries, not so much the district libraries, because IMRF Link at some point became an IMRF institution, so its employees were covered by IMRF. So that created several extra steps as part of the dissolution process, because you don't simply dissolve those people's participation in IMRF. It actually gets divided up amongst the member libraries. And Link apparently is close to 100% funded as an organization can get because of the small number of employees, and it's actually down to one active employee, but of course past employees are still affected by that. But so the village libraries, in addition to the library board approving the dissolution document, the village boards also needed to approve the dissolution document. And provide a certification of that fact to IMRF. And fortunately, all 4 village boards that are affected did approve that resolution. As of our last meeting, one of the villages, for whatever reason, was just not getting the appropriate certification turned in, but that library director was working closely with the village administrator to try to accomplish that. So just another little piece of that. And otherwise, there's not much left to do. We will be closing the office in the next month or so, and in terms of record retention, Glen Ellen Public Library will actually be the record keeper for Link. And St. Charles has a van that it uses to pick up materials around town, and St. Charles Public Library is loaning the van to Link so it can move its paper records that need to be retained by law. So all kinds of, truly boring details when you get right down to it, but necessary for the dissolution. And the next time we meet in a couple months, we'll be discussing the Link audit. The fiscal year is April 30th fiscal year, so that audit will be completed in a couple months. And then a month and a half or so after that, we'll have what is known, correct me if I'm wrong, Jenny, a stub audit to complete the partial fiscal year that has occurred after the main audit. And once that is complete, then the assets can be distributed, which will take place probably in October or November at this point. So at that point, it's all, Link is history. Yeah.
Okay. Any questions for George? All right. BATV, normally Rich talks about that. Does anybody else have anything other than the fact that we're glad that they're here at our meetings every month?
Yes.
Recording this for us. Excellent. Now for the second most exciting part of this evening is the budget. we have our working budget that we need to review and approve.
You have a report in your packet and a summary of the guidelines that are established by the Finance Committee for the preparation of the working budget. And I can say that the budget is presented as a balanced budget and nearly meets all the guidelines. We didn't quite meet the 12% guideline for books and other materials, but came very close to that. Otherwise, everything is the way it should be. And ask Joe if you have any comments you'd like to make about the budget at this point. It's a healthier fiscal year coming up than we've had.
Only that we were fortunate going into next year to have a fairly substantial increase in revenues, which gave us a lot of flexibility. Actually, in the prior year, it had gone down about $7,000. This year, it's up about $107,000, so it's a pretty good turnaround. Gave us a bit more flexibility, particularly in the personnel area. And in looking at new software, I know that's one of Michael's favorite topics, which is budgeted plus conversion plus consulting, et cetera. The budgeting process included getting rid of Link, including Swan, and that saved us several tens of thousands of dollars overall, even though it gets paid out a little differently and whatnot. So probably the one downside to this one is there wasn't a significant, probably no increase actually in collections. But the brighter spot there is the per capita grant is up about 13,000, and we can push a pretty strong emphasis on collections through that this coming year, I think, to make up some of that difference. So,
yeah, as a board, we had set a goal of spending 12% of our budget on books and other materials.
And that's based on the state of Illinois, the recommendation.
Right.
And the state guidelines, but it's just a recommendation.
Right.
Mm-hmm. The other thing as a committee and a board we talked about last year was increasing the special reserve allocation from 2% to 4%, and we were able to accommodate that this year, this past fiscal year, as well as in this new budget.
Right, and that's why I think that our books, that's the main reason the books and the materials dropped a little bit.
But knowing what we knew about the capital improvements that are needed, we
Right.
found that that was necessary to get those reserves up.
And it seems like there's still an increase of $12,000.
Correct.
Going toward the collection.
Correct.
Over last year. I was glad to see the increase in the merit pay.
Yes, that was the last thing I was going to mention, is that there is a 3.1% average increase in the merit salaries.
Are there any other questions? Jenny or Joe?
Since our tax income last year actually went down, it's a real pleasant sight to see revenue going up.
Going back up, yeah. Quite a bit.
The other thing that went up significantly in the budgeted number is the health insurance benefits, and that's based on the proposals that we received, and Joe did a really good job of presenting to the committee, not this past month, but the previous month, how he analyzed that, and unfortunately it's going to be an increase in the expenses.
Okay. All right. So a couple of items we need to do here then is we need to have a roll call vote on the working budget. We've got the personal complement detail and authorized personnel strength. Do we want to talk about that first and then work through all the votes, or do we want to do these one at a time?
I think it makes more sense to do them individually.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so I need a motion then to approve the working budget for 2018 to 2019.
I would like to motion to approve the budget for 2018 and 2019.
Thank you. Any second?
Second.
And by a nose. Great, thank you. So we need a roll call vote for this, please.
Gulata?
Aye.
H-Man?
Aye.
Garrett? Aye. Smith? Aye.
Okay. The next item is our personal complement detail and authorized personnel strength. Item 14B.
You may have been.
I moved it around. Oh, here it is. Okay. So for this is, the staff puts together a list of full-time personnel needs for each of the departments, and then this report kind of summarizes that for us.
Yes, in fact, it reflects the authorized personnel strength as reflected by the budget, in the budget. And so the bottom line in terms of total FTE for the library is the same as last fiscal year when this was approved for the first time. Over the course of the year, because of some of the changes that you're aware of, some of the individual positions have shifted a bit, but this demonstrates how many employees we have, whether they're full-time or part-time, and which department they're in, and we have a nice summary at the bottom of page 5. We have a total of 68 employees at the present time, 16 of which are full-time.
Okay.
Which is quite a small number for an organization our size, and we're making it work.
Yeah, okay. So you said 16 regular full-time and a total of 68. Okay. Does anybody have any questions on this report?
Pretty straightforward.
Okay. And this is to make changes to this?
Well, there's...
Does it need to come back to the board if staff says, you know what, I really need 3 more people in this group? And
changes that would add or drop positions would go back to the board in some fashion, such as when we reorganized. We didn't actually bring this report back, but when we reorganized electronic services last year, that resulted in the manager of that department going away, and we created a coordinator position. So that's reflected in this year's report. But that action was essentially authorized by the board's action last year.
Okay.
Things that were circumstances that do not require approval are revisions that do not change the authorized strength either as a whole or within the performance center. So basically, I did not do the comparison from year to year, but the total full-time equivalent, which is 39.375, is the same this year in this report as it was last year, which is essentially a demonstration that we haven't changed.
Okay.
No, I take that back. As I said in my report, the electronic services did cause a reduction of 0.3125 full-time equivalent.
Right.
But that's recognizable in my report.
Right. Okay.
So last year we had 40 FTE. This year we have 39.37.
Okay. And that's from outsourcing some of the IT needs inside the library. Okay.
And we're still sorting through our facilities services department because we've had just no applicants for the open positions. So we had a powwow today to talk about how to address that in various ways. And so we're cautiously optimistic that we can make some progress on that. There may be things we'll be bringing to the facilities committee in the future relating to perhaps a cleaning service to help pick up the slack. And we're looking at a variety of, re-advertising, seeing if maybe working with temporary services, other things to, because right now Kathy is our interim services, facility services manager, and we have only one full-time employee in that department. So Kathy finds herself doing some interesting work beyond her regular administrative secretary responsibilities. So.
Okay.
I did notice that was not accounted for in the 1105 subcategory, that the facility services manager is rolled into administrative secretary back in 1102.
For right now, and actually under 1102, it should say interim facility services manager because she's still in interim position. So we have the same number of FTEs in the department. And if we go back to a standalone facility service manager, we'll talk further about that with you. With the full-time equivalent in facility services, which was 2 part-time and 2 full-time, including the manager, is still there. It just shows different classifications. We didn't want to lose
Two
the...
full-time included a full-time manager. One of those positions.
One of those
was
positions was, yes.
Manager position.
And that's still in flux right now. We wanted to reflect the FTEs in this, knowing that we still had an interim position. We're having some issues filling some of the day-to-day stuff.
But that is not reflective of a long-term plan.
So the question I think you're asking is this 2.875 in 1105, right, of total full-time employees that we have here, is that what we need, or is that what is that just what we currently have, or is that what?
That is what is currently authorized for the department. Then what we
Currently, but
right.
because that's what we have based on.
Correct. Yeah, and until we sort out what's best for the long-term future, that will have to come back. You know, this report is just reflecting what is current. This report wasn't intended to project future plans. It was simply meant to reflect what how many positions are accommodated by our salary budget. Does that make sense?
It does, but I'm wondering, based on Kate's point, if a useful tool then would be to take this as current and use that to say what is optimal and ideal in each department and see where we are and see if there's openings or needs.
Well, that's an interesting point. We have not really wrapped our heads around how to best identify what the optimum staffing is for the library. We talk about that, but that's sort of an elusive target in terms of, I would say, for most of the departments, the optimum staffing is higher than what is reflected here. And we can demonstrate that we are not optimally staffed by the number of substitute hours we bring in each year, and the amount of off-desk time different public service employees that have for working on. They have a lot of off-desk work, but they have relatively little off-desk time. So we haven't found a good technique for identifying that in a good way. So this would be the launching pad for that. And that's one of the reasons why I proposed it last year, was to have a good record that we could use to build upon. But at this point, I honestly don't have a tool for that. But we're sort of in with some of this work where, especially with facility services, is more trying to get the work done mode. But I agree that we need to look at what the future snapshot might be.
Mm-hmm.
Even if we can't afford it, it may give us a better sense of what we.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Especially if we can afford it.
Yeah.
Well,
Exactly.
we kind of like to know what our goals are.
That's right. That's right.
I think it will be a good staff motivator too, to know that we know you're working under non-optimal circumstances, and here's what we're doing to right that ship.
Okay. Thanks, yeah. Any other comments on this then? So then we need a motion to approve by voice vote the personnel complement detail and authorized personnel strength.
I move.
One second.
Thank you, Joanne. Thank you, Kate. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. The next is a report on the tentative form of an ordinance approving and adopting the annual budget and appropriation for library purposes for fiscal year 2018 to 2019. That's the blue paper.
Yes, next month, the July board meeting, the board will begin, in fact, that will be July 17th, Prior to the regular meeting, there will be a public hearing on this very budget. In the business office, through the good offices of Joe, we've developed what we believe should be our annual budget and appropriation for, it says for 2018, 2019, but I'll try to explain. I'll try to explain it. Joe's smiling at me because he knows that it's hard to explain this. Basically, the working budget is our line item budget, which you just approved. This annual budget appropriation allows the library as a governmental body to authorize how much money it can expend if it needs to. This dollar amount reflected in the various funds will be carried over into the annual levy request in the fall, which the board will have a public hearing relating to that in November, following a discussion in October. And then that amount then goes to the county to levy for collecting taxes in 2019, which will then be fund the library's 2019-2020 fiscal year. So we're basically attempting to project a year and a half ahead on this. And Kate's shaking and nodding her head because she works with a governmental body and understands something.
So that explains why these numbers aren't the same as what are on the
And then they really never will be the
Okay.
same. So, plus, once so we'll submit this after the public hearing and the board approves this next month. We'll publish it in the paper, and then it will be submitted to the county clerk, and they will look to make sure the numbers match when we submit the levy in the fall. And of course, after we submit the levy, then all the tax cap calculations go into play, and so it becomes a very sort of a complicated, convoluted process for us. But this is the very beginning of that process that will lead to us having money in the fiscal year 2019-2020. If you have any questions, Joe is right there. And no action is required on this. It's basically a presentation, a report. We have already, in Thursday's paper, there will be a legal notice saying that the tentative form of the ordinance for the annual budget appropriation is available for inspection at the library, either the reference desk or the business office, because we have to have that notice and have this document available for public inspection a certain number of days prior to the public hearing. And so in fact, all those niceties are being taken care of as well. So.
And the paper record is we do that in the afternoon now, right? Or does it not go in that?
Most of the documents go in the Herald. We have used both because of the coverage area, King County Chronicle or the Daily Herald.
Okay.
The little legal notice, which just says that this is available for inspection, is in the
Chronicle.
Is in the Chronicle.
Okay. Perfect.
And yes, and then we'll publish the entire ordinance and attachment after the July board meeting.
Okay. Okay. Great. Anything else on items 14, A, B, and C? All right. Item 15 is future agenda items. See, coming up. We have our regular meeting on the 17th of July. We just added the committee of the whole on the 3rd of July.
Correct. We'll list that as a special meeting and we'll post that.
Okay. And then we've got our regular meetings in August. Do we do committee meetings in August?
Typically we do.
Okay. And then the regular meetings September and October. Okay. Any questions about the upcoming items?
As a reminder, there will, the levy this fall, I we'll have the Truth in Taxation Act review in October, and then the levy hearing in November. We will not be asking for any more money for the building construction bonds, because we will in fact, we will still include that fund in our documentation, but this last fall's levy was the last one we needed for the construction bonds, and the last payment will be made in December, I think, in December. So in December, the bonds to construct this building will be paid off.
All right. Okay.
So and I didn't look at it too, one of the community engagement goal or objective or recommendation, whatever the word is, was to transfer those levies that we were requesting.
That 7 cents.
That 7 cents, even though we don't need to pay off the bond, but to transfer to operating.
And unlike...
The tax rate doesn't increase, basically.
It's like we're still paying the bond.
Right.
Not paying the bond. And library districts...
Right, exactly.
Need to...
But
because we're
to
not paying the
taxpayers,
bond.
it would be the same.
Right.
But if we didn't do that, would there be there would technically be a decrease in the property taxes?
Yes.
Yes, we're currently levying just about 7 cents, 7.1 cent or something like that for construction bonds. And if the board decides to go to the voters say no, we'd rather not do that, or if the board decides not to go to the voters, then that 7 cents would go away.
Go back to the taxpayers.
Right. Well, we just wouldn't be getting it anyway.
Right.
So. Okay.
Thank you.
So that makes actually the July 3rd meeting quite timely in terms of discussion.
Okay. All right. That is all we have for the open session. Our next agenda item is to go to closed session for the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of the public body. So,
I forgot to put roll call vote with that, so you need a motion and a second to go into closed session, followed by a roll call vote.
I motion to go into closed session.
Thank you.
Second.
Thanks, Kate. Roll call vote, please.
Kulada? Aye. Beechman?
Aye.
Garrett? Aye. Smith? Aye.
Okay, so...
So we have the tape recorder there.
Yes.